Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you guys there?
Hello, I'm here. I'm here.
Hi, good afternoon. Hey, Alexander, good afternoon. How are you, Rowan? How are you? Well, I made announcement already and I'm kind of disappointed. I already made announcement that we are meeting online this week and only 3 people here. And let me check um, today's forum. Okay, there are more people here. Um, but only 6 people. What's going on? Only 6 people? Hmm, this is disappointing. Um, so, yeah, here I made 2 announcements, I believe. Two announcements. Not this spring break, that's obvious. Uh, why is it not available? Monday, it should be already there. What? How can it be? Alrighty. So we're meeting this week online, and please read this. What's ahead of us, right? Uh, and it is, also if you are a finance major, right? You must be advised only by the finance faculty. Otherwise, it can mess up. It can mess up your curriculum, right? Because the electives, liberal arts, even liberal arts electives, they are not really electives. It's not like, you can choose anything from the menu. There are only certain, there are only some specific um, electives from liberal arts that are uh, allowed or accepted in the finance program. So uh, it's more like recommended or recommended electives. And next week we are going to be in spring break. Um, so this announcement has been made. So I should I was expecting more people. Uh, anyway, I have like 9 people now. Um, all right. So today we are moving on to a new topic. Okay, we're moving on to topic 4, bond valuation. Okay, moving on to topic 4. Actually, by the main lecture, we're already here. Okay, we're already here. So almost all of topic 5 is done by the main lecture. This looks like, yeah. This was from the last spring, but this must be very useful. So I put it there. So you must be caught up all the way to this, right? You must be caught up all the way to these videos, right? Lecture videos uh, by now, so that you will be able to, so that you can be ready for uh, the quiz 2 shortly after we come back from the spring break. Now, so bond valuation, there are 2 files you must download, right? Which, this one is, of course, Excel file. And okay, the mouse is, and this one is, the slide. Okay, here, so if you open that, right? The first thing you will see is the bond, how the bond prices are quoted in the print media. Okay, uh, but we already know a lot about bonds, from our from topic one. You learned a lot about. Oh, why did I close it? In topic one, so we already know that the bond is a debt instrument. It's a debt, right? And it's a standardized bond is a standardized instrument, debt instrument. So I believe that is being discussed. You know, bond is a standardized debt instrument with what are standardized features? First of all, face value. A bond's face value or par value or maturity value. So uh, face value also means maturity value, which also means par value, also called redemption value. Uh, par value. It goes by redemption value, right? It goes by many different names, but you need to understand, you need to know them all. And if you remember from uh, topic one, uh, you should remember what is the par value of the bond. All the bonds have the same par value, right? All the bonds have basically the same par value, except except the except for the municipal bond. All the bonds have the same par value or face value or maturity value. What is it? Anybody? What's the par value of the bond? Anyone? No one here? Daniela? Daniela, I see your microphone. Go ahead, Daniela. What happened to your microphone? Hmm? Your microphone isn't working? Why don't you type it into the chat box? What's the face value of the bond? All the bonds have the same face value, except for the municipal bond. Yeah, Daniela, 1,000. Yeah, all the bonds have the face value of 1,000. Daniela, please check your microphone. I think it's you got to go into your microphone setting and probably uh, raise the volume. Um, my audio, my speaker is at 50, so uh, um, yes. Um, Daniela. So you got 0.5. And we all understand how it works. Bond has, one of the standardized features is the coupon rate. Coupon rate means the interest rate, of course, the interest rate that the bond pays. Okay. Coupon rate. It's a fixed rate. So if the coupon rate is 10%, right? So here, and the coupon rate, right? Coupon interest rate. If it is 10%, that means 10% of the face value. Okay. So it will be $100 a year. However, the bonds are on a semi-annual schedule, semi-annual cycle. That means compounding frequency is 2. That means, actual coupon payment $50 per 6 months, right? Per semester. Right? Because the bond is on semi-annual cycle. Oh, come on, give me a break. And think about it. If the company wants to raise $10 million, right? If the company wants to borrow, in other words, federal government, right? In other words, Treasury Department, right? Either Treasury Department or a company, right? Wants to borrow $10 million. What do? Sell bonds for $10 million worth. For $10 million worth. That means how many, roughly how many bonds do they need to sell? So then 10 million divided by 1,000, right? So delete, that's roughly about, that means, that's like this, roughly about 10,000 bonds, right? Why roughly about? Because the selling price of the bond is not $1,000. The bonds do not sell at $1,000, right? 1,000. So face value is, again, face value is what you get at maturity, right? So let's see the timeline. Let's try to put it on the timeline. Let's say it is maturity is 10 years, right? 10 years left, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that's year 10. Okay. And suppose, this is the maturity, right? Right. That means, at at this point, at maturity, they will give you 1K, and annually it's 10%, so $100, but it's semi-annual, so every 6 months, right? They pay you $50 every 6 months. So anyway, it's the same thing. Over 10 years, you will sum of all these coupon payments, coupons, over 10 years, it will be 1,000, right? Either whether it is semi-annual, $50 every 6 months, or $100 every year, it doesn't matter. It's, total will be 1,000, right? All the coupons, and plus face value at the end, right? Plus the face value of 1,000 at the end. Now, so that's what the maturity value is. It goes by different other names. Maturity value, again, face value, maturity value, redemption value, right? Or par value. They all mean the same thing. And the valuation, uh, our question is, the valuation of the bond means, what is it today? What's the dollar value of, in other words, it's the present value, right? That's the rational price of the bond. Excuse me a second. All righty. So where was I? So if you think about it, bond is a remember in the last class we talked about amortization. And what is an amortization? Amortization is basically paying um, you have in amortization, if you borrowed $1 million, right? In amortization, principal is 1 million, but you paid over like 30 years in monthly payments, right? And the monthly payments break down into principal paid and interest paid, right? It breaks down into principal and interest. So you are, um, if you borrowed it for 10 years, there will be 120 monthly payments, right? And they will break down into principal and interest. That's amortization, right? But if you borrowed, and you cannot borrow, you cannot borrow through bonds because you cannot sell bonds. But there are only three entities that can sell bonds. Uh, Federal government, right? The national governments is also called the sovereign governments, right? Sovereign governments, national governments. In the U.S., that's called federal governments. Um, if you borrowed 1 million through bonds, right? So the principal is 1 million, right? This principal is also this principal can be greater or less than 1 million. In other words, this 1 million is a maturity value, let's say. At the end, at maturity, you'll have to pay back. But in bond, so for you borrowed it for 10 years, and then it's not amortized. In other words, every month you pay only the interest, right? Which is called a coupon. And it's 6 months, not every month, every 6 months. 6 months, and you make 20 payments of them, right, over the life of the bond, and then at the end there is the you pay back the face value, which is 1 million, right? The maturity value, in other words. So actually here, it's not maturity value, but what I should say is principal, right? Principal is either greater than or less than or equal to 1 million, right? Depending on, so that means selling price, the selling price of the bond, in other words, the price here at time zero, right? The price here at time zero, right? Which is the present value of all these coupons and 1,000. What is, it could be greater than, it could be greater than or less than or equal to less than 1,000. Okay. So that's the standardized feature. It's the standardized feature of the bond. And bonds are, that's why it's called, that the bonds are non-amortized debt. Non-amortized. Now I understand why it's called non-amortized, because you're not, it's not like, principal is going down. Principal is, you're only paying, there is no change in principal. I mean, regardless of what the principal is, you owe the face value at maturity, and until then, you pay the interest, right? Semi-annually or annually. That's the standardized, okay, feature. And how is the bond then quoted? How is the bond price quoted in the media, especially in the print media like newspaper or even online? The way the so here this table 9.2 is showing the examples of 3 different types of bonds. One issued by the federal government, which is the Treasury, right, on the first line. The second one is corporate bond. And in this example, it's CIT Group. I believe CIT Group is, something like a triple B. I mean, when I looked it up years ago, it was something like a triple B rated company. I don't know what its credit rating is now, but it was investable grade, triple B. And the third entity is municipal government, right? So we have these 3 entities, and as you can see, the first column is coupon rate. For Treasury, the first column is coupon rate, but the other bonds, second column is the coupon rate, because the Treasury has a weird, for Treasury, two kinds of prices are reported. The Treasury's coupon rate is 2.75%. So that means what? 2.75% of the face value, 1,000. So it's $27.50, right? $27.50. But that's per year. That's per year. And I told you, bonds pay coupons semi-annually. So half of that is the coupon interest paid every 6 months. 27.50 divided by 2, and you will know what it is, right? And see, look at the coupon of the CIT Group, 7%. So it's compared to the Treasury, it's much higher. That means, and I've been telling you, U.S. Treasury is the safest bond in the world. U.S. federal government is the safest borrower in the world. Nobody is safer than U.S. Treasury. Okay, so it's quite obvious that CIT group is riskier than U.S. Federal government. It goes without saying, and that difference is huge difference. It's almost what, twice. So that's why I said when I looked it up years ago, it was about triple B rated. So between the risk-free and triple B, the risk premium is about 3.25%, right? That was around 2010. And these examples, this example was not the most recent one. This example was taken around 2010. To be exact, June of 2010. How do I know? There was no mention of, in the textbook, there's no mention when this example was taken. But we can calculate N, right? And based on all this, I traced it back by calculating N, and I traced it back to June of 2010. Okay. So at the time, the credit rating of CIT group was about, that was triple B. And the municipal bond, 4.5%. 4.5%. So you might think, oh, so that's 4.5% of 1,000. So $45 a year. No, actually, I've been telling you, only all the bonds have the same face value of 1,000, except for the muni bond. The muni bonds have face value of 5,000. So then 4.5% of 5,000, you can calculate it. It would be slightly around, it would be around $220. Why? 10% of 5,000 would be 500. Half of that would be 5%. So 250 will be 5%. So 4.5 will be slightly below 250, right? So that's how I could come to the conclusion. Now, the second column of the Treasury is the maturity, right? Terminal time, terminal T. But for the others, a third column. And the maturity on this Treasury was February of 2013. February of 2013. So it is already, past at this point, but, that was more than, that was almost like 9 years ago. But when this example was taken, it still had about, 3 years left. It still had less than 3 years. A maturity of CIT group was May 2016. Maturity of the muni bond, New York City Water Finance Authority, right? Maturity was June 15th of 2037. So it's still not, it hasn't matured yet. And the next column is the price. Now, interesting thing is, the price, CIT group, price looks like $91.735. No, that wouldn't make any sense, because if this example was 2010, right? If this example was as of 2010, with 6 years left, how can it be, $91? With 6 years left, shouldn't it be at least, somewhere around $800? Hmm? Or, so obviously something's not right. And also, muni bond, uh, face value is 5,000, but um, around 2010, it had 27 years left. 27 years left. But even with 27 years left, can you sell like below $100? No. Uh, Everything when the price is quoted in the print media, all the prices are actually expressed as percentage of the face value percentage. So this means 91.735% of $1,000. This means 97.57% of $5,000 face value. So then if you adjust it, I mean, this one is easy to adjust, so that must be $917.35, right? And then for muni bond, if you multiply 5,000 by 0.9757, it will come to 4,878.50 $4,878. I get so short breathed and tongue twisted. I don't have to. So please, I don't have to read it. I mean, the numbers, you watch it, right? You see it right there. So, enunciating $4,878.50. That's so exhausting. So I don't like numbers, okay? Numbers you can write, don't have to read. It's really a waste of time and energy to read the numbers, right? If the number, why do we have to? Billions, I mean, if this is, 478 billion, 927 million, I mean, just reading it is already exhausting you. I'm a math person, not a numbers guy. Okay, what's the difference? Numbers guy likes to calculate with numbers. I mean, it's arithmetics, right? Multiplying, four-digit numbers, with 6-digit numbers. That's numbers guy. I'm not good at that. You can use a calculator to do that. But what math is about is not about numbers, but yeah, it's about numbers, but not the rule in the numbers, right? Math, but more importantly, math is about the logic. It's algebra. It's logic. You can't use the numbers all because just reading out the number is already very tiring, right? Uh, and quadrillion, trillion, billion. I mean, these units are even multi-syllable. It's not a single syllable. So repeating it like 467 quadrillion, 652 trillion, all that, and then something 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 billion, then something 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 million, then something 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 thousand, something 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 point something something. That's already very tiring, right? Uh, anyway, So if you calculate it, you will know 5,000 times this. You will know already. In some languages, those units are just single syllable, like quadrillion, trillion, billion, million. These are just thousand, just a single syllable. Korean is one good example. Quadrillion is kyung, trillion is jo, and a billion is shibok. No, now it is two syllable, but it's not because. Uh, uh, but that's the only thing. And 1 million is a million is oh, okay, that two syllable again. 1,000 chun 100 pack. Um, so it's easier to read numbers because it's less taking less energy to read numbers. But if you were to read it in, I hate to read numbers in French because uh, 80 in French, it's not 80. It's not like it's 20, 80, which is 4 times 20, 80. 70 is 70, 60 plus 10. I'm, the French was not like that originally. But after the French Revolution, they changed it to like, the system of 60. So after 60, 70 is, 60 plus 10. 80 is 4 times 20. And then 90 is 4 times 20 plus 10. And then, of course, 100 is a song, uh, song cent, like century, 100. Well, that's only, only in French spoken in France. French spoken in Switzerland, it's a lot easier. 60 is 60, and then 70 is 70, 80 is 80, 90 is 90. But then, if you were to read it in, French, in France, it gets me, French people have no problem with that, but I have so much, a problem with that. Every time I have to, I hear them say, 98. I know it is, 88, I mean 98, 98. But then, it kicks in, I mean, because if your, mother tongue is not French, then by nature you will try to translate it into English, and it gives me such a, hard time. Uh, and also in French, up to okay, 12, 10 is this, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, and after 15 is, after 15, says, that's 16, but from 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19. What is that? That's 10 plus 7, 10 plus 8, 10 plus 9. It's such a hell to read numbers in French. So anyway, everything has logic here. So we know, oh, these are percentage, right? That's a percentage, right? That's a percentage. It's easy to convert it. I mean, because the face value is 1,000, it's easy to convert it. 1,000 times, but this one just 5,000. But what is this? For Treasury, there are two prices. There isn't just one price, two prices. What are those? One is bid, the other one is ask. Now, if you ever bought something on eBay, you know what's bid and ask. It's an auction term. Bid is the price that the buyer is willing to pay, and ask is the price that the seller wants, right? So these two prices are reported. Of course, you have to, the price must be the ask price. You cannot buy it unless you pay the ask price. You cannot. When there are more buyers than sellers, right? If it is a seller's market, seller commands the market. It's in other words, seller dictates the market. When there are, think about it, fewer sellers and a lot of more buyers, then it's seller's market. But if there are few buyers and a lot of sellers, then it's buyer's market. In most cases, in the Treasury, it's in the bond, it's seller's market. But actually, I cannot say it's always the case. And the transaction can still happen because there are dealers. Dealers close this gap. Okay, and interesting thing is that look at the bid price. 104 point, is it point? No, it's not point. 104 point, 104 colon 25. What is that colon? 104 means 104%. Yes, of course, 104%. Then 25, isn't that the decimal? Isn't that the decimal point, decimal place? No, it's not decimal. It's actually 30 seconds system, 30 seconds. So it's actually 104% and 25 over 32 of 1%. Okay, 104 and 25 over 32%. So how do you calculate that? Well, I did it already here. You see what I did here? 1,000 times 104 plus 25 over 32, then times 0.01, because this is percentage, right? Times 0.01, you get 1,047.81. Okay. So that's how you convert. This is the Treasury's price quotation into dollars. And if you can do this, then the same thing for ask price. The ask price will be then the same thing. 1,000 times 104 plus 26 over 32 times 0.01. And if you do the then the ask price will be this. There's barely even a dollar difference, right? There is barely even hardly even a dollar difference. But this is a unique system, very unique system used by Treasury only. Sometimes they even simplify it further. And if you can, for example, 24, if it is 24 over 32, then you can do it even like, uh, 3 over 4, right? Or, 6 over 8, right? They do, they can even do that. But it's basically 30-second system, okay? All righty. So I think it's the right time to take a break. It's 3:55. So let's take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 4:05. Okay? All righty. Let's take a 10-minute. All right, where is it? All right, we're back. We're back. So, okay, where is the slide is here. Okay, so this is the way we talked about how it is, Treasury is quoted. And the next column is normally yield. You remember yield is the annualized return. Yield is the annualized return. Um, and if you remember from topic one, we talked about this in topic one. Um, there are, two scenarios, right? Scenario one and scenario two. Scenario one is like zero coupon bond. Scenario two is coupon bond, um, because uh, in zero coupon bond there is no interest, right? So there is only capital gains. In scenario two, there is both capital gains and interest payment. So uh, in case of under scenario one, um, the growth rate is the same thing as return, right? But so the growth rate in scenario one or zero coupon bond is the return as well as also the yield, okay? Because yield is the annualized return. And in scenario two, or in coupon bond, um, the the growth rate is a different thing. Growth rate is a different thing from uh, uh, return. So return is greater than the growth rate only, right? Because growth rate is only the capital gains only, right? Growth uh, uh, growth in the capital gains or return in capital gains. But since you have also the coupon payment, right? The yield is, so I don't know if uh, scenario one, scenario two, growth rate. They all mean the same thing, right? Whereas in scenario two, right, growth rate is a small part of the return, right? Annualized return, right? Which is the yield, okay? Uh, So compare the compare the yield of the Treasury and the corporate bond yield. It's almost 10 times, right? Almost 10 times. And look at the difference in the coupon rate. Coupon rate alone cannot explain this, right? Because coupon rate is only, uh, corporate bond coupon rate is only about uh, twice or just slightly more than twice uh, uh, the corporate bond coupon rate is just slightly more than twice the Treasury. But here, the yield, 10%, right? That different, right? And the muni bond yield is somewhere in between. It's not that much different from the coupon rate. So that means, capital gain from it is relatively small. Now, the reason here, you see, um, the yield is greater than the coupon rate. So that means, that difference comes from the capital gains. The difference comes from the capital gains. Yield is smaller than the coupon rate, and that comes from the capital loss. Of course, there will be a capital loss in case of Treasury, because now it is, 1,047 or $48. It's a premium bond, but about 3 years later, not even 3 years, about, I told you this example was taken around June of 2010. So by February of 2013, it's not even 3 years, 2 years something. Uh, uh, in a couple of years, uh, it will be $1,000. So there's a capital loss, and that capital loss is reflected here, right? The interest you receive isn't that much. It's only like $27.50 a year, but there is a capital loss of $48, right, over just the like couple of years. So that's why the yield is this low. Okay. Now continuing with the next thing, n, right? You see n at the end of the right? N, right? What does that mean? That n means it was originally issued as Treasury note. Originally Treasury note. Treasury note has maturity between 1 and 10 years, right? So maybe it was originally 10-year Treasury note, but as time goes on, now it's still Treasury note because it still has about 2 years left, more than 2 years left. But once it has less than 1 year left, then it will be traded just like Treasury bill. Okay, so it's like this. Not all the Treasury bills are born as Treasury bills, right? There are Treasury bills that are born as Treasury bill. Originally, T-bills issued with less than 1 year to maturity, and there are T notes, Treasury notes, with maturity between 10 and 1 year and 10 years. Okay, and then also there are Treasury bonds, originally issued as Treasury bonds. But as time goes on, let's say now there is less than 1 year left. It's a Treasury note, but it's treated like Treasury bill, right? With less than 1 year left, it's treated like Treasury bill, okay? And just the same, if the Treasury bond has less than 10 years left, if the Treasury bond has less than 10 years left, it will be traded like as Treasury notes, And then if it has less than 1 year left, then will be traded like Treasury bill. Okay, makes sense. The next thing is tips. Treasury inflation protected securities. Tips. Now, so Treasury is very safe, but the downside is low interest rate. Downside is low coupon rate. Low coupon rate. Coupon rate like 2.715. I mean, these days Treasury note, Treasury bill won't even pay 1%, but Treasury note will pay something like 1 point something. Okay, because since 2008, we've been having very low benchmark interest rate, very low benchmark interest rate, and only recently, in the last Fed FOMC meeting, which was held in sometime around March 20 something, they declared, the Federal Reserve declared that they are going to raise the interest rate 6 times this year, 6 times. So they raised it by 0.25 first. So if they raise it by quarter percentage point each time, times 6, it's going to be 1.5%. By the end of the year, the interest rate will be 1.5% above the current level. But that's still, that means the interest rate is still low, because whatever, previously the benchmark, the Fed funds rate was 0 to 0.25. Now it is 0.5 to 0.5. If they raise it once again, it will be between 0.5 and 0.75. Okay, so that means still, and the Treasury note won't be that far away. It would be currently about 1 point something. Even if it is 1 point something, think about it. The inflation has been like 6%, 7% a year, since last year. So after adjusting, you all know what is real interest rate and nominal interest rate. So think about it. The nominal interest rate, come on. We all know real interest rate is nominal interest rate adjusted for inflation. So if this is, the mouse is acting up again. Suppose this is just 1.5%, right? On the Treasury, it's just Treasury note, 10-year Treasury note, nominal rate on it is 1.5%. Coupon rate, right, is 1.5%. But this has been like 6%. We all know this is going to be negative 4.5, right? So then Treasury becomes very unattractive. It may be safe, but you have a lot of inflation risk. Okay, so that diminishes, that diminishes the attractiveness of the Treasury. So what did they do? They came up with, that's why they came up with tips. So what is tips? It's, compensating. It's basically compensating face value by CPI, which is, uh, consumer price index, right? Adjust par value for inflation measured by CPI. You all know there are several measures of inflation. Most commonly used is CPI. So inflation is measured by CPI, Consumer Price Index, PPI, Producer Price Index, and GDP deflator. Now, among one of the CPIs, what's commonly used these days is PCE, Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. Uh, you can look up what PCE is. It's mainly what makes the difference is um, do we include, think about it, food prices, gas prices, these things are um, food and gas, these things are very uh, the, the demand for food and gas, it's very price inelastic, right? What that means is that even if the price goes up, demand doesn't go down that much. Why? Because it's staples, right? You have to eat even if the price goes up. I mean, you will probably eat less, or uh, you buy cheaper items, right? But you can't um, uh, basically demand for food or gas. I mean, if you gas price goes up, you may drive less, but still, um, you have to still commute. These days, commuting is you have to commuting is much more flexible these days, but uh, traditionally or conventionally, food prices, gas, uh, these are the prices that are inelastic. I mean, demand for these are inelastic, right? With respect to the price changes. So, do we include them in the, uh, or do we uh, not include them, or do we make adjustment, for that factor or not? That's what determines, that's what makes the difference between just plain CPI and PCE. You can also okay, I'll do it later. Uh, So the point is, if we make adjustment to the par value by CPI, then interest payment also gets adjusted, right? That means change. Delta means change, right? As par value changes over time, interest payments also, coupon payments, right? Coupons also change. At maturity, right? Investors receive inflation adjusted par value at maturity. So here, consider a 10-year TIPS issued on January of 2007, paying 2 and 3/8% coupon. Now, this is Treasury, right? That was January 2007. CPI at this time was this. This was the CPI, 201. And on January 15th, 2010, that was exactly 3 years later, CPI was this, 216. Okay, so how much did the CPI change? Roughly about 15, right? But you know, let's say 16. But the base was like 200. I mean, CPI is usually 100 in the base year. Okay, CPI of the base year is 100. And when is the base year? In macroeconomics, the base year has it has always been like 1982 through 1984. It's not just a single year, a whole range of, this is like 3 years, 2, 3, 4, right? This is, CPI. So that's the base year. And what happened in 82 through 84? There was a significant artificially induced recession, because by the end of 1970s, there was huge inflation. It was stagflation. Economy is stagnating. It's not growing. Usually, you understand, inflation is the result of strong demand, not just strong. You remember we talked about this in topic 1. What causes inflation? There are 2 things that causes inflation. 1, strong demand, right? Or a supply shock. So you understand there's demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. If the cost of everything goes up, inputs, especially input cost, if the input cost goes up, every input, it's basically energy, mainly energy, food and energy. If it goes up, if the input prices go up, because everything becomes more expensive, the inputs of production becomes more expensive, right? You understand? Input of production, right? Labor, capital, raw material, they become more expensive. Then the suppliers will cut down on production. Producers will cut down on production, right? Because it doesn't make any, the more they make, the more they lose. So they cut down on production, they downsize because there's no way they can support, the same level of production. That's cost push. The other cause of inflation is demand pull inflation. Strong demand, right? Strong demand causes the prices to go up. Now, but think about it. At the end of 1970s, it was stagflation. In other words, if it is demand pull, then price must. If it is demand pull, right? Um, the economy should grow, right? But then there was economy wasn't growing, stagnating. Uh, it was stagnating. So they had to do something, and when there is an inflation, they have to uh, tighten money supply. They have to use tight monetary supply, tight monetary policy. So they did, and then the interest rate shot up. Economy cooled down quickly. So there was a artificially induced recession during this period of 82 through 84. So economy hit the bottom and then rebounded. So that's why they use 82, 84 as the base year. So CPI for 84 is 100. But then think about it. 1982, 84 is 40 years ago already. It was 40 years ago. I graduated from college in 83. So I lived through this time. But at the time, I was a liberal arts major. It didn't really, hit me that much. I had no idea. But because this was, like 40 years ago, more recent choice for base year, right? More recent choice is 1997. What happened in 1997? It was called Black Monday. The stock market crashed. And that caused, a recession. So sometimes we use, 1997 as the base year. And in the TIPS calculation, 97 is the base year, right? TIPS is indexed to inflation in 1997. Now, if that means if the CPI is 200, that means what? There was a double, right? The price level was double the base year. 2007 was 20 years after 97, or 10 years after 97. So I'm not sure if, if this is, I don't think into 2007, the price level was twice 99.7 price level. I think it's still, the base year is still, it's just, the base year is still probably, 84. Because I remember gas price, that was 91. The gas price in 91, it was as cheap. I mean, the cheapest gas I remember was 87 cents per gallon. 87 cents per gallon. That was in 91. That was the cheapest gas price I ever remember. Of course, in the 80s it was cheaper, but then in 2007, gas price wasn't, was it $1 in 2007? It was, yeah, I believe it was probably in 2007. It was probably about $1.80 something or $1.60 something. So I guess it makes sense. I mean, 97, using 97 as the base year, 97 as the base year. No, then, when the gas price was 87, that was 91. So I don't know. Maybe, the base year they used was, 97. But whatever this means is, if the CPI is 200, that means, the price level doubled, right? Doubled from the base year, right? The price level was twice as much. So think about it. If you're making, but we are making adjustment between these 3 years, 2007 and 2010. So it's not a big deal. All you need to do is think about it. How do you make an adjustment to the price? Oh, what is this? Give me a break. Okay, I'll have to. So let me write it here. So if I have some space to write it, there's got to be a space to write it. Okay, so I believe here. So, too big. Basically, what is inflation? Inflation is the growth rate in CPI, right? Inflation is the growth rate in CPI. So how do you find the growth rate? Growth rate is CPI 2007 over CPI 2000. I'm sorry, CPI 2010 over CPI 2007, and this will come out as 1 point something something, 1.08 or something something, right? And then the net growth rate is this minus 1, right? Then that will give you only the net growth rate of like 8%. So this is basically the gross growth rate, gross inflation. Okay. Gross inflation. So if you just, so between 2007 and 2008, over 3 years, the price level went up by 8%, right? So, but if we use gross return or gross growth rate, then inflation is growth rate in price level. We don't need to, we simply multiply it by 1,000, right? 1K. Yeah. And then it's just like multiplying 1,000 by 8%, then that will give you $80. And then that means $80 increase right? $80 increase over 1,000. But you'll get 1,080 anyway. But if you do 1 times, 1,000 times 1.8, you will get 1,000. Yeah. Writing it is, 1,080. So that means par value is adjusted for inflation. Par value is adjusted for inflation. Okay. Then if par value is adjusted for inflation, then the coupon, if the coupon rate is 0.27, remember 2.75%, you multiply that, whatever the coupon rate is, and that will give you annual. That will give you annual coupon, right? It will give you annual coupon, right? So you divide it by 2, right? To get semi-annual coupon. Okay. So that's how making adjustment for inflation is not a difficult thing. It's not. So this is how it is. Again, just by looking at 201 and 216, the difference is almost like 16, right? Of course, it's 15, but roughly 16. But think about it. Base is 200. So this is about 8%. Isn't it right? So if you actually work out the exact number, the adjusted par value will be 1,072. And the coupon rate, multiply that coupon rate. This is like 20, 2 if you work out this number, and then turn it into a regular percentage, right? You come to 2.375. 2.375. So annually it's going to be $23.75. Originally, on 1,000, it would be 23.75% on the original par value of 1,000. But the par value is now this. Inflation adjusted par value is now this. So if you multiply them, it's going to be whatever it will be. I think it will be 25 something. It will be 25 something. And because it's semi-annual, right? Semi-annual divided by 2, you come to this. Okay, so this is how TIPS works. Okay, this is how TIPS works. All right, so that's it for today. That's it for today. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All righty. I think if you have questions, then please use my office hour. I mean, I have another class coming up shortly, so I'll have to prepare for that class. So even if you have a question, I may not have enough time to handle that. Oh, one more thing I just wanted to mention. There is in the assignments folder, your midterm results, not just the midterm results, I mean cumulative results have been updated. So please check it out. So I will see you all on Wednesday online again. And so have a great afternoon. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Okay. All right. Stop recording.